A new epoch begins. With every passing year, more and more Necron tomb worlds awaken from their millennia-long slumber, unleashing their legions upon a war-ravaged galaxy. Vast swathes of the ancient Necron Empire have already been reclaimed, and this relentless pace of expansion shows no sign of slowing. Millennium 41, an ancient threat rises. The return of the Silent King. In 744 of Millennium 41, the Silent King enters the bounds of the galaxy once more. Having encountered the Tyranids in the intergalactic void, he realizes that if these horrifying creatures are left unchecked, they may consume every living thing in the galaxy before the Necrons can achieve their apotheosis. Returning from his self-imposed exile, the Silent King begins a pilgrimage across the galaxy, stirring tomb worlds yet to revive and speeding the recovery of those already awakened. Though he takes pains to conceal his true identity, working through Triarch Praetorians or unwitting cryptex and overlords, the Silent King's influence is felt from one side of the galaxy to the other. Slowly, he pursues his great work from the shadows, hoping that it is not already too late to atone for his past failures. The rise of the Stormlord. After a decade of fruitless civil war, one of the many overlords contesting the Mandragoran throne awakens Nemesor Imhotep to champion his cause. Appalled by the fruitless fighting that surrounds him, Imhotep gathers an army of his own and takes power for himself, enforcing an iron rule and executing any noble foolish enough to stand in his path. Imhotep cements his position, naming himself Pharaoh of the Sartec dynasty. Within a year, the dormant gates of Mandragora are awakened, and Imhotep's reconquest of the galaxy begins in earnest. Death on Daxos. The addled yet brilliant Nemesor Xandrek eradicates the orc hordes of warboss Snaggletooth on the tomb world of Daxos. This victory sees the last orc infestation purged from the Sartec core worlds of old, while incidentally ending the decade-long war between Snaggletooth's greenskins and the neighbouring ecclesiarchy system of Haydn's Breach. The Haydnite ecclesiarchy give thanks for this miracle from the Emperor, and the system thrives once more, never suspecting the true nature of their unwitting saviours. Bitter vindication. The rise of Imhotep the Stormlord has come to pass, proving true the prophecy of doom arising from the Book of Mournful Night. With this revelation, the seer councils of the craft worlds are forced to concede that the danger prophesied by Alatok Elderai is very real. There is no time for recrimination, however, for the threat is growing by the day, and only the Elderai know its true scale. Once, a great crystalline map marked the locations of every tomb world in the galaxy. Now, only fragments remain, and it is these that the Elderai of Alatok use in conjunction with their far-flung networks of exodites and outcasts to begin to orchestrate the battle against the Necron menace. Even as other craft worlds are re-honing half-remembered strategies or debating the best course of action, the people of Alatok strike preemptively at slumbering tomb worlds and the legions of the Risen. The secrets of Solemnus. When the planet Solemnus is mysteriously bypassed by the life-scourging horrors of High Fleet Behemoth, the Inquisition takes an interest in precisely why. Inquisitor Valeria leads a force to investigate this anomaly, and discovers the myriad marvels of Solemnus's sprawling galleries, domain of the archaeovist Trazin the Infinite. However, as the wide-eyed intruders make their way deeper into Solemnus's depths, the tomb world stirs to angry life around them. The running battle that ensues wreaks havoc and destruction through several of Trazin's most prized exhibits, leading Solemnus's ruler to take the field in person. As the fighting reaches a crescendo, Valeria herself guns down Trazin with her graviton beamer, only to see the Lord of Solemnus stride from the shadows once more, hale and unharmed. The inquisitorial force retreats, their few survivors falling back to their shuttles and leaving Solemnus to its secrets. Heralds of the Silent King. Since the return of the Silent King, the Triarch Praetorians have slowly become aware of his presence in the galaxy, and have returned to his service one fragmented host at a time, officially restoring their oaths of fealty to their ancient liege. Many hundreds assemble on the tomb worlds of Antrak to give their oaths in person, while thousands more join the gatherings as hard-light holograms beamed from strongholds and tomb ships the galaxy over. The Praetorians swear to serve as the Silent King's heralds, keeping his identity a secret while spreading his message of unity to every tomb world they encounter. They will unify the Necron Empire in the face of the Tyrannid threat, or face final, lasting death in the attempt. Thanatos Besieged. Heretical Astartes of the Word-Bearers Legion descend in force upon the tomb world of Thanatos. Defended by the mighty legions of the Oroskar dynasty, this world contains an incredible treasure, the Celestial Orrery. Were the zealot brethren of the Word-Bearers to acquire the Orrery's power, the consequences would be unthinkable. So begins a bloody, long-running siege, Necron warriors and immortals battling against the mountainous high-gravity surface of Thanatos, against roaring demon engines of fanatical word-bearers. The conflict ends only when reinforcements from the Cardaneth dynasty arrive and crush the word-bearers between their legions and those of the Oroskari. The war, however, does not finish there, for the Cardaneth nobility are pursuing their own omnicidal campaign of destruction, and desire access to the Celestial Orrery to see it completed. When Oroskar's Pharaoh, Hakmefet, refuses, Thanatos is reduced to a battleground once again, this time seeing Necron pitted against Necron in a grinding siege that shows no sign of ending. The Ruin of Morrigar. A battle between hive gangs on Morrigar inadvertently awakens the Necron tomb world hidden there. All contact with Morrigar is lost shortly thereafter, when the Cadian 207th make planetfall 6 months later. There is no trace of any inhabitants, human or otherwise. Before the Astra Militarum can leave Morrigar, the nomadic Necron warlord Anrikir the Traveller arrives. Assuming the humans are responsible for the apparent destruction of the tomb world, he launches an attack that leaves his own forces decimated, and the Cadian 207th utterly eliminated. The disappearance of Explorator Fleet 913. Explorator Fleet 913 strays into territory controlled by the Nyarlath crown world of Gidan, and is destroyed by the fleet of Nemasor Azderon. When the battle is done, wreckage is set adrift in the projected trajectory of craftworld Alatok. By the time 3 companies of Ultramarines come in search of the Explorator fleet, Azderon has long withdrawn, but the presence of Alatok's Pathfinder vessels draws the Space Marines into conflict with the Eldari. The triumphant return of Sasar the Invincible. The shadow-shrouded world of Athenos is racked by severe earth tremors. The cause remains a mystery until a colossal tomb ship, captained by the Pirate King, Sasar the Invincible, emerges from beneath the ground, shredding soil, rock, and fragments of Hablock from its hull as it rises. The world's defences are, understandably, in disarray. Unfortunately for the inhabitants, Sasar has yet to realise that humans are an intelligent form of life, and pays no more attention to the panicked defenders than he would to a nest of insects. The Athanosian planetary capital lies in ruins, but the rest of the planet survives relatively unscathed, as the tomb ship heads into the stars towards the tomb world of Zapanek, pausing only to obliterate a hollow stealth Eldari listening post hidden in near orbit. Upon reaching the tomb world, Sasar manipulates the master program into believing him the planet's rightful Pharaoh, seizing control of the world and all its awakened warriors. Sasar restyles Zapanek as the Reeve world, transforming it into a mighty pirate stronghold. His underlings gather ships from the large belt of orbital wreckage left by the last great space battle of the War in Heaven, and the raiding begins in earnest. Millennium 41. The dynasties revealed. Sanctuary 101. The armies of the Sautek dynasty continue their relentless advance across the Vida system, sweeping into Imperial space at last. Imhotep the Stormlord leads an attack against the fortress convent on Sanctuary 101. The Sisters of Battle within fight like lionesses, doing all they can to preserve a lasting record of this previously unknown threat. They are raised in the Emperor's sight as a result, living on in legends of their order. Yet for all their defiance, they are slain, their picked captures revealing little more than blurred and stalking shadows. Fear has a name. Following recovery of the footage from Sanctuary 101, a number of Ordo Xenos Inquisitors come to a chilling realization. Pooling intelligence from dozens of filed, pending or redacted reports, some of which must be reclaimed from the Administratum at gunpoint, they realize this mysterious Xenos threat is at large throughout the galaxy. Presenting their findings to the High Lords in person, the Inquisitors succeed in having these half-glimpsed Necrons recognized as a Vermilion-class threat. However, between the secretive nature of the Inquisitorial Ordos, the ponderous bureaucracy of the Administratum, and the terrible difficulties of interstellar communication, it will be many years before the Imperium at large is properly warned of this new foe. The Kingdom of Bone. A strike force of Dark Angels bypassed the blockade of the Ghoul Stars, plunging into this haunted realm of space in pursuit of a battle brother they believe to be one of the Fallen. The grim-faced Space Marines run their quarry to ground on a charnel planet of ash and bone, only to discover that they have been pursuing the animate cadaver of a loyal 4th Company sergeant. As the corpse flops to the ground with metallic mind shackle scars pouring from its eyes and mouth, the wastes come alive with shrieking, hissing packs of flayed ones. The Dark Angels have been lured into the Bone Kingdom of Drazak by its mad king Zalgul, there to sate the hunger of his twisted kin. The Space Marines fall into a tight defensive formation, fighting back-to-back as the shrieking tide of blade-fingered automata crashes down upon them. Blood flows, bolters roar, and the charnel plains ring to the sound of blades clashing against steely talons. For over an hour the flayed ones fight frantically to overwhelm their outnumbered prey. The Dark Angels are only saved when their strike cruiser, Lion's Roar, performs a near-suicidal attack run through the upper atmosphere, fighting the planet's gravity just long enough to drive the Necrons back with massed bombardments and teleport the surviving battle brothers to safety. With their quarry fled, the flayed ones feast. The crash of battle replaced by an obscene chorus of crunching, cracking, and tearing that goes on for many hours into the night. Mass abductions. The Imperial world of Mandal begins to experience frequent nighttime raids by wings of night size. Entire farming communities are snatched up in the dark, whole townships disappearing without trace. Unbeknownst to the planet's defenders, the source of the trouble is the small moon of Trantis, a Necron way station that has woken and, following ancient directives, begun to stockpile Mandal's resources for redistribution to other worlds. Ironically, Trantis' Dolmen Gate has long been severed from the webway, leaving the moon drowning in accumulated wealth for which it has no use. Yet still the raids continue. A war without honor. The legions of the Nexist dynasty attack a trio of Imperial factory worlds known as the Threefold Engels. Deploying teams of Deathmarks and swarms of Canoptic Wraiths, they mislead the command structure of the Astra Militarum forces into defending a string of far-flung islands, while a concentrated attack falls upon its mainland. Engel Prime and Engel Secundus fall in a matter of weeks, their defenders fighting valiantly but without cohesion against a duplicitous foe. Only on Engel Tertius does Nexus Nemethor Suthis encounter stiff resistance, for here an embedded regiment of Cadian Baneblades turn the tide with their sheer armoured might. In response, Suthis unleashes no less than 3 separate shards of the Catan known as the Deceiver. The Godling's illusions and trickery throw the enemy into utter confusion, allowing Nexus forces to close in on and destroy the Baneblades, ending the Cadian resistance at a stroke. The Nexus dynasty claims the Threefold Engels as their own, renaming them the Shadowed Triad and awaking the tomb hidden deep beneath Engels Secundus. The Fall of Hypnoth. Imhotep's campaigns are halted briefly by the Imperium's resolute defense of Forge World Hypnoth. Astra Militarum and Space Marine reinforcements flood into the battle zone, and though they cannot achieve a lasting victory, they succeed in tying down the Necron assault for several months. Encouraged by the prophecies of Astromancer Oricon the Diviner, Imhotep finally breaks the stalemate by launching a series of attacks on Hypnoth's supply worlds, Praetor Zeta and Nyx. The first 2 raids perform entirely as expected, with the planets laid waste and their vital supplies claimed by the Sautek forces. However, An unforeseen Tyranid infestation on Nyx wreaks havoc amongst the Necron forces and threatens to derail Imhotep's entire campaign. The Stormlord weaves a strategy that manipulates the Tyranid swarm into attacking the remaining Imperial defenders, allowing Imhotep to extricate his remaining forces and continue on his campaign. Meanwhile, Sautek Cryptex succeed in introducing a meganophage into the defense systems of Hypnoth, reducing its formidable armed bastions to helpless ferrocrete shells. Despite a valorous defense by Space Marines of the Flesh Tearers and Iron Hands chapters, Hypnoth is captured. The Twisted Catacombs. In retaliation for the attack upon Threefold Engels, the Ordo Xenos dispatches a Deathwatch kill team to destroy Mobius, the crown world of Nexus dynasty. So tangled is the maze of hyperspace corridors that make up this shadowed world, the Deathwatch battle brothers are soon divided and hopelessly lost. Only one brother escapes alive, a space wolf by the name of Raynolf Longstriker, but he has been rendered hopelessly insane by his experiences. The Sands of Fortress. Warboss Skullcrack leads a mob of his best boys to the ghost world of Fortress, chasing rumors of ancient and deadly weaponry. However, his expedition meets a messy end upon a nameless beach, as wave upon wave of Necrons march from the blood-red waters of the ocean. The orcs are wiped out to the last, but not before Fordis's cryptex have gathered reams of useful combat data. However, the Mephrit masters of Fordis judge their warriors to be only 70% combat efficient. Seeking more data, they lure an archaeological expedition of the Adeptus Mechanicus to their world. It is not long before the sands are stained red once more. Broken Faith. Enrique the Traveller attacks the Imperial Shrine world of Saint Spire. So stout are this world's defences, and so easily has it seen off previous invaders that it is believed throughout the system that the Emperor himself protects it. The Traveller will prove this claim false. Enrique's cryptex have confirmed that the tomb complex at the Shrine World's heart is cold and dead, plundered many centuries ago by the ignorant human settlers. Accordingly, the Traveller is here to exact a terrible revenge. Using his tomb ships as a shield to ward off the planet's fleet, Enrique fights his way through to the greatest of Saint Spire's orbital fortresses, the Blade Imperium. Waves of night-size scream around the fortress's sprawling hull, beaming rank upon rank of attackers upon its armoured hide. Impervious to the dangers of hard vacuum, Enrique's Pyrean Eternals blast their way into the Blade Imperium, venting the fortress's atmosphere at a dozen key points. Hundreds of luckless humans are flung screaming into the void. Necron immortals stride dispassionately down corridors splattered with the frozen remains of decomposing Imperial troopers. As Enrique himself makes his way into the fortress, the surviving garrison stage a final fight back, but in a bloody one-sided gun battle across the Primus Concordium, the Necrons make short work of their assailants. Enrique now strikes the killing blow, channeling his furious wail into the mighty weapon system of the Blade Imperium and discharging its Cyclopean batteries at the planet below. The bombardment is so horrifically destructive that it shatters the planet's crust and breaches its core, condemning Saint Spire to a slow and fiery death. As Enrique departs the doomed world, morale throughout the system collapses, beginning a chain reaction that will sweep an entire segmentum with panic. After this day, Necron attacks will hold a new terror for the people of the Imperium. For if even the shield of the Emperor cannot hold this foe at bay, what chance does humanity stand? The Galaxy Besieged. The War of Uta Prime. After his foes refuse his generous terms of surrender, Nemesaur Zandrek launches a devastating attack upon the planet of Utu Prime. He is opposed by regiments of Catachans with no fewer than 3 companies of Imperial fists, yet the power of his legions cannot be denied. Though they fight with the courage of heroes, the Imperial forces suffer horrific casualties when Zandrek unleashes an ancient war engine known as the Megalith. The last Imperial defenders stage a brave stand in the Governor's Citadel, dying one by one in a close and bloody battle with Vargard Oberon and Zandrek's Lich Guard. The Rise of Damnos. After incautious mining operations disturb their slumber, the Necrons under the icy crust of Damnos wake swiftly to full function. They overwhelm the human settlers and repel a counterattack by the Ultramarines' second company. The Necrons of Damnos then proceed to awaken their dolmen gates and reconquer a crucial spar of the webway, driving out the Eldari who had claimed its path during the Great Sleep. With their webway access restored, raiding parties from Damnos reach out across their ultima segmentum, leaving carnage in their wake. The blow to Imperial morale is severe. For the 25 years that follow, Cato Sicarius is so haunted by his failure, he does not smile even once. The beast slain. The Tau-sept world of One Voth is almost overrun by a sudden onslaught of Tyranids, only to be rescued by the most unlikely of saviors. Several legions of Necrons from the Atun dynasty fall upon the swarming bio-horrors, their monoliths and annihilation barges laying down a crippling bombardment of fire, while a spearhead of Triarch Praetorians hunt their way deep into the monstrous horde. Those swarms fight back with the fury of a wounded beast. The Tyranids are caught between the attacking Necrons and the firepower of the surviving Tau. As the last chitinous horrors crash down dead, the entire Necron army turns on its collective heel and departs without a word of explanation. The bewildered Tau can do little but give thanks for their mysterious rescue, little knowing that they have witnessed the servants of the Silent King. Conqueror's Fall. Whilst en route to the Sautek core world of Davatas, the Stormlord's tomb ship Inevitable Conqueror comes under attack by the Black Templar's fleet. Leading the assault is none other than High Marshal Helbrecht, come searching for a long-anticipated revenge upon the warlord who humbled him and cut off his right hand upon Schrödinger 7. A broadside from the battle-barge Sigismund strips away the Necron ship's shields an instant before the Black Templar's boarding torpedoes strike home. Within minutes, the decks of the Inevitable Conqueror are prowled by vengeful space marines. Pride compels Immertuk to stand and fight, but his forces are in disarray, and logic wins out. The Stormlord teleports to an escort vessel and makes his escape. Helbrecht is incandescent with fury, but consoles himself by personally setting Immertek's beloved flagship on a collision course with a nearby star, and annihilating those other Necron craft too slow to flee. It is a crushing blow to the Stormlord's pride, and one that will not be soon forgotten. An unforgivable theft. Illuminor Caesares leads warriors of the Sautek dynasty in an attack upon the imperial world of Ghost, destroying a fortress complex belonging to the Mentor Space Marine chapter. As his prize, Caesares claims the entire stock of precious gene seed that lies beneath the fortress. Vengeance at Damnos. 25 years after the Necrons drove the Imperium from Damnos, Marneus Calgar returns at the head of a massive force of Ultramarines, Astra Militarum and Deathwatch kill teams. The Damnosian nobility defend their world with everything they have, viewing this invasion with a mixture of contempt and outrage. The Space Marines and their allies sustain punishing casualties, whereas the Necrons arise from the blood-stained snows time and time again. As the battle reaches its height, the Necrons unleash the might of their baleful necropolis. This airborne tomb complex dominates the fight. Mighty blasts of entropic energy from its monoliths and the Tesseract vault at its heart lash the Space Marine lines, while the ground beneath them yawns into gashing chasms. Only the desperate actions of Marneus Calgar himself see the necropolis destroyed and the transcendent Catan set loose from its cage. Utter carnage follows, for the wrath of the vengeful Star God is unleashed upon both armies. Captain Cato Sicarius saves the battered remnants of the Imperial force with a well-timed vortex grenade that obliterates the Catan entirely. Damnos' Necrons are laid low, their leaders slain and their resurrection made impossible through the destruction of their stasis crypts. The Great Rift. The Black Crusades of Abaddon the Despoiler culminate in a disaster of cosmic magnitude. Unbeknownst to the Imperium, and even to the Necrons, the War Master of Chaos has enacted a 10,000-year mission of demolition upon the structures the ancient Necron tier raised to keep the warp from spilling into real space. The Citadel of the Cromark, the pylons of Cadia, and a dozen other astromantic locations are torn down, leaving wounds in reality that reach critical mass and join together to form the Cicatrix Maledictum. The Absorption Wars. Imhotep the Stormlord launches a series of extensive reconquests, intending to absorb those tomb worlds awakened by the Great Rift into the Sautek dynasty. The Necrons clash with the demonic menace on a dozen different worlds, with a will to cleanse the newly aware planets and hence put their dynasties in his debt. With one side epitomizing cold logic and order, and the other the white heat of chaos, neither can predict or understand their opponent. Casualties on both sides spiral into the billions, but Imhotep does not relent. Foundation of Sand. On the orders of Belisarius Cawl, Magnus Dominus Dentrex Oligostian leads an excavation party to unearth the black stone buried beneath the surface of the Forge world Amenhotep II. No sooner has an array of Noctilith obelisks been uncovered than rank after rank of Necrons arise from the rust-coloured sand. The ensuing battle data that pours into Oligostian's tactical partition reveals an inescapable truth. The ancient Forge world of Amenhotep II is home to an even more ancient presence, one that has remained hidden from the Adeptus Mechanicus' most invasive geoscopic surveys for millennia. The Legions awoken. By this point, even the most hopeful estimates of the Imperium suggest that more than 1,000 tomb worlds have awoken, though the Eldari know the number to be greater still. Between the efforts of the Triarch Praetorians, Anrakir the Traveller, Imhotep the Stormlord, and the many dozen of lesser Pharaons and Nemesors scattered across the galaxy, the Necron race is waking with ever-increasing speed. Billions of Necrons still slumber, yet legion upon legion now bestride the stars. Every day their ranks grow in number, and as they march forward, the galaxy trembles.